Hello and welcome to Film Insider. In this video, we'll go over the 2019 horror sci-fi flick Brightburn. It's time to reflect. Let's get this party started. Turn on subtitles. Spoilers follow. The film begins with Tori and Kyle Breyer trying to conceive a child. We observe a number of books on shelves that indicate this, albeit they appear to be failing in the midst of their most recent attempt. Tori hears crashes outside and feels vibrations. She brushes it off at first, then a louder shake switches off the lights. When they glance out the window, they notice that something has crashed outside. We then see a video of a child named Brandon growing up. Tori appears to be playing hide and seek with an older version of Brandon after seeing some of these clips. Brandon is then at school, responding to a teacher's question. Back at the farm that night, this catches the eye of a young classmate named Caitlin. While Tori is painting, Brandon sleepwalks to the basement and discovers a meteor, likely the one that brought him to Earth. As he gets closer to it, he becomes enraged. Tori soothes him. Brandon walks out to mow the grass the next morning, unhappy with starting the machine. He flings himself hundreds of feet. He walks over to look at the blade spinning on it. Curious, he slams his hand into it and stops it cold without a scratch. Later, the family visits a diner with Tori, Kyle, his aunt Marilee, and his uncle Noah. Kyle chastises Noah for attempting to give him a toy gun. Brandon, on the other hand, demands the gun. The family exits in the middle of their celebration, with a waitress watching as they remain separated. Brandon isn't even listening to Kyle the next morning. Brandon is chewing on a fork without causing any damage to his teeth, he notices. Kyle takes Brandon hunting, showing him his rifle and describing the changes in his body. Tori discovered some lingerie advertising beneath his bed. Later that night, Caitlin, Brandon is conversing while listening to a slow rock song. She detects music coming from her laptop and shuts it down. She is, however, concerned that he is watching her from a nearby window. Her mother, the waitress from earlier, barges in and asks what's happening. She starts to breathe nervously. Noah and Tori are looking for Brandon at the farm. They track him down. Tori meets with Brandon's instructor the next day at school while he does some weird drawings in his notebook. Tori inquires about them, and he closes in on her and goes away. Kyle returns to the farm and discovers Brandon sitting on some birds. He asks if he's okay, and when he says yes, the two proceed inside. Tori and Kyle later go outdoors and discover that all of the chickens have been slaughtered. Tori believes a wolf did it, but Kyle believes Brandon was present. Brandon and his classmates participate in a trust fall exercise the following day at school. Caitlin is concerned about what happened the other night, but she remains silent. He falls to the ground, however, as one of his classmates fails to catch him. He's oak. Caitlin, on the other hand, states that she would not assist him since he is a pervert. Brandon claims it is a lie. The coach compels her to assist him, but he abruptly breaks her hand, sending her screaming. He's then in the office with Tori, apologizing to Caitlin's mother. The mother, on the other hand, is not so confident. She asks that the sheriff arrest him, but he refuses. He'll be in school for special sessions instead. Meanwhile, Brandon simply sits there forlorn while they continue to argue. The mother believes that he was born by a maniac, but Tori protects him. But not before the family has left. Brandon presents her with a man. Later that night, he overhears Kyle and Tori discussing him. Tori then researches meteors, but she senses something strange going on in the barn. Brandon is seeing something glowing, which could be a meteor. She runs out to check on him and discovers him levitating in the barn. Take the planet, he continues to chant. He collapses and slashes his hand on a piece of the meteor as she approaches. She goes down to rest and talk him down. He freaks out and explains that he came from the sky, then yells at her and flees. She goes to Kyle and tells him what he discovered with the meteor. Brandon shouts and fires lasers from his eyes as he walks. Later, he pays a visit to Caitlin in her bedroom, where she is typing with one hand on her laptop. He encourages her not to be afraid and that she understands how unique he is. She claims her mother told her not to talk to him, but he promises he'll take care of it. She sobs as he does. He leaves, leaving a flower for her. Meanwhile, her mother is about to close the diner when she notices something is wrong. She steps out and notices diagrams on the windows identical to those in Brandon's book. The lights begin to flicker. The windows shatter, and the mother has to remove a shard of glass from her eye. She looks around but sees nothing, yet she feels someone is nearby. She reaches for a baseball bat, only to see a shadow figure fly away at breakneck speed. She attempts a swing but fails to connect. Then he goes back to the cooler in the back, locking the door behind him. Brandon burns through the door as she flees for safety. He pulls the door off with his laser vision and glances menacingly at her before charging and possibly killing her. Brandon meets with his parents the next morning, informing them that everything is okay as explained. Back in the diner, a sheriff and his deputy look into what transpired, including what remains of her body. The sheriff discovers one of Brandon's diagrams on the window. Drew Merrily, another counselor, tries to talk to Brandon, but he's unable to articulate what's going on. The session goes nowhere, and Merrily considers reporting his actions to the police. Later, at a pub, Kyle tells his pals about what happened with Caitlin's hand, and he begins to suspect his son is a monster. Merrily is doing something in the bathroom while the lights flicker on and off. Brandon later goes up at Mary Lee's house and says to talk to her. He claims that talking to the police is bad for everyone. He apparently leaves when she instructs him to go home, but he later stays outside her window and watches her text Noah. He returns to the house in his costume, but Noah discovers him in the closet. He leads him out and threatens to inform his parents. They begin loading onto Noah's vehicle, and when he tries to force Brandon into, he's leaning against the garage door. He gets up and drives away in his pickup, terrified but certain Brandon is following him. The truck abruptly begins to swerve out of control and loses power. He tries to restart it, but Brandon appears in front of him, yelling. He pulls the vehicle off the ground, levitating it in the air before crashing it to the ground. Noah smashes his jaw viscerally and the processes. Brandon approaches him as he lies dying. Brandon finds another of his symbols in his blood on the ground. Brandon returns home, claiming to have been playing soccer the entire time. He describes being bullied and how he lost his shirt that night. Kyle has a nightmare in which Tori finds the kid in the meteor and decides to adopt him. But he is startled when his eyes suddenly light up with lasers. The phone rings and Kyle and Tori are summoned to the hospital where Marilyn is being treated. They console her when she explains Noah was killed. She reveals that Brandon had come to see Kyle beforehand, which worries Kyle. The next morning, they told Brandon about Noah, but all he said was okay. Kyle suddenly worries what's going on and accuses Brandon of being present. Tori tries to calm him down, but he only makes him furious. Brandon shoves him into the pantry, shattering the doors in the process. Tori sends them packing. Later, Kyle discovers Brandon's shirt and observes a small amount of blood on it, but manages to remove it without his knowledge. He apologizes for his behavior earlier, but Brandon simply says okay. Afterwards, Kyle confesses to Satori what he discovered, but she refuses to believe him. Meanwhile, the sheriff examines the accident closely and discovers parallels between the diagram from the window and what was scribbled on the ground. Kyle goes through old Brandon's birthday cards and tries to console Tori that night. The next day, he decides to accompany Brandon on a hunting excursion. The sheriff pays Tori a visit to explain what he discovered with the images. He threatens he'll be back in the woods if she doesn't recognize them. Brandon and Kyle are following some deer footprints, and Kyle allows Brandon to move ahead. Tori discovers Brandon's notebook and notes the identical diagram from the window and the road, as well as other drawings such as his clothes and the glass of the waitress's eye, as well as other dead people. Consider the entire globe. Back in the woods, she panics. While Kyle attempts to shoot him, Brandon investigates the tracks. The bullet is fired, but it only bounces off Brandon's skull. As Kyle attempts to reload, he seems surprised. Brandon, on the other hand, vanishes once he does. Kyle flees in terror, but Brandon, now hooded, flies around and appears around him. He eventually tackles him and makes him sit up. Kyle tries to apologize, but Brandon shoots his laser eyes through his skull, killing him. Tori frantically tries to phone Kyle at home, but to no effect. Brandon finally responds and Tori inquires as to where Kyle is. Brandon explains why he's gone and when he'll return. He hangs up the phone and starts flying through the house, smashing it. During this time, she dials 911. While he continues to circle her, the sheriff and his deputy are summoned. The call is shut off after 911. They come to look. The house has been completely destroyed. Tori begins to emerge from the house as the sheriff calls her name. The sounds of her being torn apart by him can be heard by Tori. She continues to be quiet. When Brandon looks around for her, she makes her way out the window and to the earth. Tori makes her way to the barn where the meteor is located. She remembers previously where Brandon was injured in his fall and tears out a fragment from the meteor. She finds the body of the waitress as she hides the shard and calls for Brandon. He arrives up hooded and all, and she says that he means everything to her. She starts to take his hood off, and he looks at her innocently. The two embrace as she prepares to stab Brandon with the shard. However, he catches her hand, pushing the shard out of it. Angry, he flies her into the air, several hundred feet into the air. He gives her one final glance, holds her out, and drops her to death. As he levitates in the air, an oncoming plane comes towards him. The next day, the debris from the plane is displayed on the ground with no survivors from the disaster. It's reported that the plane crashed into the farmhouse with Kyle and Tori inside. Brandon sits there munching a cookie with an innocent look on his face. At the final credits, we see cities ravaged and millions dying by Brandon's hands. Thank you for taking the time to watch. Don't forget to subscribe to support us at Film Insider, where we bring you more amazing movie recaps. And don't forget to like to make our day.